I hear it.
Yeah, I'm using my husband's Zoom, so it's totally different to my one. So I set it up for an hour and a half. His is, I don't know, you can use it for however long, but I just did an hour and a half just so it didn't cut off.
That's great. No, that's
I don't think we will be going for an hour and a half, but
no,
yeah.
Okay, perfect. Well, my goodness. So this is the first interview. And just want to make sure I can hear you properly. But yeah, this is the first interview that I've done like this for potentially like a YouTube video or Zoom, like call like this. In like recorded, that's going to be out in the public. That's kind of like, it's sort of a big deal.
You usually do your own podcast and talk yourself, is that right?
I do. I have a podcast. Yeah. And it's just like it's called Healing Words with Christine. And I've had people come back to me, like, it's not a huge following at this point, but that's okay. It's like, it's out there in the world. And that's what the important thing is for me, is like that content is out there in the world, regardless of how many people see it or not. Because
and more will come.
More, well, and eventually that's the thing. I was looking at certain people that I've followed for years, and they like have like a 12-year like thing of information and content that they've put out for like the last 12 years. And then it's only been the last 2 or 3 years where they've started getting much more of a bigger following, which is not really what it's about, but it's like, it's nice to know that like you're being heard.
Yeah, and it's getting the information out there to people. I mean, people are looking for different ways to improve their lives and their health and every part of them. So yeah.
Right. So. Yeah. And so the podcast is just really about, I whenever I start any project, any work, any healing work, I always set the intention that whoever is there to listen gets exactly what they need. And then I work with like frequencies in the voice. So there's always this intention behind all of it to activate people when they hear whatever I have to say, because it's whatever they needed to hear at the right time. And then suddenly they might have heard it 20 times before, but they hear it now and they're like, oh, I get it. It finally makes sense.
Yeah. And I remember hearing one time before that even connections to past lives, people hear my voice or your voice and it resonates and they don't know why, but they're just like, oh, I like this. So
it makes sense.
Past life memories,
It would make sense, because then it's sort of a familiarity, kind of like what you would get with like a, soul family connection or a twin flame potentially, or whatever, whatever you believe on that front. But I do feel like we do have contracts with our soul family.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's my feeling.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah. They say our children chooses us, right?
Exactly. That's what I've heard that too. I thought that's quite brilliant, and I think a lot of people might get upset about that. Like, oh, why would somebody choose to be born in, not the best, circumstance perhaps, or, some in some of those cases, but it's always, I do feel there's a bigger picture at play. And then we just kind of zoom in on the smallest detail and we think, oh, that's wrong. But we just don't have whatever, like the whole picture to understand the whole thing of what's really going on and how it's a piece in the puzzle.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's my feeling.
Yeah, there's so much we don't know about. Even the people that say they know everything and, they know X, Y, and Z. And it's like, how do you know everything? There's, there's only source that knows everything, I think.
Well, there's always like new levels of awareness. I don't know about you, but as soon as I think I know and understand something, I'm quickly humbled by the universe.
Yeah.
Or, by source or whatever. And I'm told like, oh yeah, no, you definitely didn't know everything about that. And then like I fall down on my face a little bit. I just imagine my own guides laugh, or my source only laughs at me a little bit, because I'm a little bit playful and silly. And so I'm like, well, it would make sense that source would be like that to me.
Yeah, that reminds me of when I had my first daughter. I was like, okay, I'm going to be this kind of parent. I'm going to do this and that, and I'm not going to do this or that. And I'm going to teach her X, Y, and Z, and it total opposite. I've learned more from my kids than anybody else, you know, so total, total evolution. It's amazing. Yeah.
No, I totally hear that.
Yeah.
I mean, and all of this is amazing. And I'm sure you come like maybe you can share a little bit about your work, you know, just for your audience, for this audience, to see like kind of, sorry, I'm dropping stuff.
That's okay.
I'm gonna not excuse my humanness as we go through this process, because I think there's this sort of polishedness that everybody wants to have, but it's not like, you know, it's not authentic. So I'm like, my thing right now is to be really authentic and really real. Like, yep, so that happened. Just gonna call that one out there.
Yeah, so I'm a true quantum healer and a self-sabotage coach. Just gonna put my phone over here because it's vibrating.
Oh no.
So
it's all happening today.
Yeah.
I think it's that equinox energy. I don't know, man.
Oh yeah, even trying to get this call going, it was like, you know, a couple of obstacles. I'm like, oh no, not today. We're getting this Zoom call going. I'm not gonna hold us back.
I think that's part of it. It's like you've got to like recognize like when there's a point to surrender and when there's a point to continue push past the difficulty.
Yeah.
The balance. Anyway.
So I was gonna see if I can change my name here actually. Yeah. Should have did it at the start, but anyway. Yeah, so as I was saying, I'm a true quantum healer. I've been doing it for, oh my goodness, 5-6 years now. And I'm also a self-sabotage coach. So yeah, my journey into true quantum healing, I was looking to do something different with my life, the usual 9-to-5, you know, corporate job, and, you know, grateful for it, but it wasn't fulfilling me on the soul level. And there's, you know, I figured, okay, there's more to life. Is this it, like 9-to-5? So, you know, make long story short, I came across true quantum healing, and the minute I came across it, I was just amazed at it. I was like, oh my goodness, I have to do this. I was looking for something. I put it out to the universe. I want something better. I want something, you know, better to do in this life. And I asked for it, and, you know, I got it. True quantum healing came along, and it's been amazing. Been quite a journey. Never a dull moment with it. Yeah, always learning, always evolving, and helping clients, helping family, and, you know, it's helped me in my life. Yeah. So it's been great. And then self-sabotage coaching, I started that then as well also. So I was interested in why do we do the things we do, even though it's not serving us, and whether it's, you know, sabotaging and, you know, health-wise, wealth, relationships, drinking things we shouldn't be drinking, eating things we shouldn't be eating.
Addictions, right?
Addictions, exactly. Yeah. And why do we keep going back and doing the same thing over and over, even though we know it's not serving us? So yeah, and I think they're well combined as well. Self-sabotage coaching and true quantum healing, I think they work very well together as well. So even though I do the true quantum healing separately with clients, I do combine them for coaching clients.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense, right? Because I mean, you know, you go through your, like, I know, so I do a lot of healing work as well, but I'm more of on like the psychic healing realm, which I guess is similar to what you do. I just do it differently. But, you know, I noticed that people will walk away and like, okay, now what? Like, you did all this stuff, and now like, what do I do with this? And, you know, how do I move forward in this way? And, you know, can we do more work together so that I can kind of figure out like whatever mindset that I'm adopting that's not helping me, not supporting me. So I think it's brilliant that you do, you know, a self-sabotage coaching, because I think we do that all the time. And, you know, we can go through all these healing processes, but like, we do also have to like be like masters of our minds, I guess.
That's it. Yeah, we're creators, and it's something we're not taught. You know, what we're taught and what we learn is what, you know, the education system, the government, the people that rule us decide we should know. And the people who rule us are the ones who write the history books, right? We put all the information out there, what we see, what we hear. So if that's all, you know, we're taught and all we're aware of, then that's how we're going to behave and act. And there's a whole different world out there. Yeah. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that's mind blowing, I think, for a lot of people to consider that, like, maybe their own history isn't authentic or isn't the actual truth. And I mean, it's funny that you're saying this, because I was watching something the other day, and they broke down the word history to his story.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, I mean, like, we can go down this, oh, that's sexist route or whatever, but like, I don't think that still feels more like a distraction, because like, but you're still not like getting to the point, which is like, it's a story.
Yeah.
Which,
as I say, whoever wins the wars write the history books, right?
Writes the history books, exactly. Yeah. Or whoever says they won the wars gets to write the history books.
Yeah.
That blew my mind. I was like, what if everything I learned in history class was just not true? And the more, as diving into quantum healing, I don't know if you've ever done like the hypnosis aspect, or if you do the hypnosis aspect of it, where you go beyond the ego and then into the past lives, and then maybe even to the source consciousness. I think you said you did, right? Didn't you say something about that before?
Yeah, the type of healing I do is called true quantum healing.
Yes.
So I have a set of charts, and every area of the physical and energetic bodies, it's broken down in a chart system. And it's very extensive. Even the energetic bodies, I mean, we work on areas that, I'm not aware of anybody else working on it, going to the grids and templates and the mainframe of people's energetic bodies. So I dowse where a problem is with a client. I have a questions chart. So I ask what question is optimal for the client. Then I dowse with my pendulum on where the problem is. My pendulum, I'm working with my source self and with source. So my pendulum pinpoints me to where the problem is. And then I go to another set of charts, which are called stressor charts, which are just problems. And I dowse on what the problem is. So it's a bit different to, the type of healing that you do and other people do in that sense. Yeah. And then once I find where the problem is, what the problem is, then I remove it with sacred geometry tools.
Beautiful.
So, so this is the pyramid that we use right now. It's a triple pyramid. You can see the lights as well. So you can probably sense the energy of it.
Yeah, so it's really powerful. I actually am supposed to be speaking with Chris Kaler soon
awesome.
to interview him as well. So that
Chris is my mentor. Yeah. So I'm sure he'll talk about this pyramid as well, but we have the triple pyramid here. And then there's Shungite in it. We have a Shungite spear, a Shungite pyramid, and then there's also a divinity ring in here. So there's a lot of different components working together. And then we also have the lights here, which, give photons out. But it balances the masculine and the feminine. It balances the four forces. And it takes the brunt of the problem as well. So some healers, they use their hands, and sometimes that problem they remove, it can get attached to them. The great thing about these tools is it's powerful and it protects the healer as well, while allowing the energy to go to deeper levels within the client. Yeah,
well, that makes sense, because there's as somebody who like learned the hard way, I guess. I would work with clients and then come away really exhausted, really drained. And then I'd have to go see a healer to just help me like remove the cords and stuff. Cause it's one thing to see another person. It's another thing to look at yourself. And, especially when you're looking at the etheric body, right. And you're like not seeing these things to the best of your ability. You've got your own blind spots against them too, because you might have some ego there saying like, oh, well, I'm not gonna like deal with that, that's not gonna happen to me. And then it kind of comes in and you're like, oh no. So it's really I had to learn the hard way to like protect myself and not partner with those energies like very intentionally, very consciously, and very deliberately. And even still, sometimes I still have to see somebody to kind of like, hey, I'm noticing some pain here. And that was just after I talked to this person, and not even a client necessarily. Sometimes it's other people in my life who maybe I don't see often or something. And then I'm like, and then they'll like, oh yeah, you got this, and this. I'm like, okay, great. And because I can see as well, I'm like, oh, I see what you're pointing at. Like, it's almost like it comes to the fore and suddenly it pops up in front of my face. So yeah, it's great that that defend or protects, I guess, your energy too.
Yeah, yeah, and I do work with different healers as well. Every so often, they'll want a clearing, to help clear off any entity attachments and then increase their healing abilities as well. So
Well,
that's the
that's it
beauty.
too, eh?
Yeah, that's the beauty
Is
about true
there
quantum healing as well. Directed by source. So if that person needs something, it'll spell it out in the letter chart. So
nice?
it's pretty amazing. It's individual. It's unique to every person.
Yeah, and it's kind of great because it's almost like you can kind of tackle things that maybe other people or other types of, healers or maybe medical people that haven't been able to do maybe they can manage symptoms and stuff, which is great. We're grateful for that. But, at the same time, it's like, but I want somebody to do something about my problem is my position on it. It's like, I want actually this problem solved, not here's something to manage the symptoms, but there's really nothing we can do. And that feels so disempowering and inauthentic to myself, like my higher self is like, no, that's nonsense. Like, better.
Yeah. And I think people are changing. Many people are waking up. They're discovering that the current system is not serving them, and they see the rat race, and it's the next pill or the next surgery or taking out the next organ or whatever. And so they are looking for something different. There's people that will come to healers when they've tried everything else. There's the clients that will go to a healer first before they try the other route. So there's many different, as you probably see as well on your side, there's many different types of people and the reasons that they'll come to us. So and and true quantum healing is great because it works on physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual problems. So there's many different facets that we can work on.
Yeah, and I love that it kind of so there was a time at one point in my life where I thought I would go into naturopathic medicine. And that never really panned out. It was just like, usually when something's gonna happen, like, there might be some resistance to it, but like usually a way is paved for me. And that's what I've noticed in my life is that if something's meant to be, a way will be paved. And you might have to fight some resistance because there's some ego death there. And there's some, new identities that you're taking on. Like, well, what if I'm not a total loser? Or what if I don't suck completely? Like, all of those low self-worth type things, from childhood will come up if you have them, if you have anything, any shadow like that.
Oh yeah. It'll follow us for the rest of our lives unless
you deal with it.
Resolve
I can tell you.
And it just gets more painful the longer
they do.
It goes
and
on.
The amount of times that I've moved because I've had issues with different things in the circumstances or places that I was living or where I was, I could it would blow your mind. I moved 7 times in 1 year.
Oh wow. Yeah, you're really running, huh?
I'm a runner. And now I've had to I've had the universe say okay, you're gonna sit your ass in the chair and you're gonna stay here. And there's not gonna be anyone or anything that can drag you out of this because you got to look at this stuff. And that's been 2 years now, which is I'm yay. And so now I'm coming to the tail end where I've been clearing a lot of those karmic connections and stuff like that. So now I'm okay, this next time that I go and I, really make things work for myself, it's not going to be that cycle of it works for a little while, then it catches up to you. And then you're back to basically where you started. It's not going to be like that because I have a very different feeling about now. It's not about running away. It's not about trying to escape my problems. It's really about owning the fact that no, if there's more to deal with, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to deal with it. And then I'm going to feel right when I'm ready to go kind of thing. And it won't be from such extreme discomfort that I'm trying to escape it. Right.
Yeah.
It might be some irritableness, some irritations and stuff like that, when it's time to go kind of thing, versus you are really out you were trying to run away from your shadow, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and then, you're aware of that, I'm aware of that, but there's lots of people that are not aware of that, and they get stuck.
That's it.
And they don't know why their life is not changing, why it's not moving forward. As I say, I feel like, they're caught by the arse of their pants, they're running and they can't move. So that's the great thing about this kind of work. It opens up a whole new world and helps people resolve, any subconscious programming, traumas. So, yeah.
Exactly. And I think that it really helps people get unstuck and, try to finally understand, like, well, this has been happening for the last 10 years, the last 20 years. Like, I don't understand why. Can you tell me why? Right. Rather than, well, I'm just an unlucky person and just bad things happen to me in this lifetime. Like, well, that maybe there's a bit of that. I mean, I suppose we can go with that, but that's not really helpful, is it?
Yeah, and sometimes, that can happen from past lives, but I think we have to take responsibility as well and look at our own lives and any programming and, our thoughts and beliefs. And there's many different layers we can look into, and that's where, I believe the self-sabotage coaching comes in as well.
Brilliant.
It's a great model. It's freedom from self-sabotage coaching. So what I do with a client is there's a whole questionnaire that they go through, and it's very in-depth, intense questionnaire. I mean, it's amazing. Just going through that questionnaire alone is a healing process. And it's like it lays out a picture of their life, and they're beginning to see patterns like, oh my goodness, yeah, look at this and look at this. And so just the questionnaire is a healing process. And then it goes through, back to childhood, diet, exercise, to what they're watching, what they're, putting in through their ears, what they're putting in through their eyes. And a lot of that forms our environment, forms our behavior, all different parts of our lives. Yeah. And then do 2 coaching sessions with the clients as well, and educate them about why they're self-sabotaging. Even, myself, why I got interested in self-sabotage is because my weight kept fluctuating. I was like, why do I keep doing that? And I could never pinpoint what was I doing wrong. When I was younger, my 20s, and younger, I was always, fit and healthy. And then, just something changed. And I was like, why do I keep yo-yoing? I'll lose the weight, I'll exercise, and then I'll stop. And I'll sit on the couch and I'll watch TV and I'll eat, chips and chocolate. And then to undo all that work. And it was just like a cycle. I just kept doing it, and I didn't understand why. And then, we beat ourselves up over it, technically, we didn't hurt anybody, we hurt ourselves, but it's not like we committed a crime or anything, but the guilt and everything that goes with it. So that's what got me interested in the whole self-sabotage part of it. And so, it totally changed me. I don't have that problem anymore. I was able to resolve all those issues. Yeah. So, and then, so it's a whole process to it as well. Educate client on why they're self-sabotage, and then give them the tools and the knowledge and the resources to, build a better life and stop that self-sabotage. And then I also do the true quantum healing as well. So it works on the psychological level and also the energetic level.
Yeah. And I was going to say that's really important, because I notice that comes up a lot with my sessions. And for me, it's like, I just do what their higher self asks me to do, no more, no less kind of thing. And sometimes they'll say, like, their head's in the wrong place, and then I'm like, okay, and then, just intuitively I'll pick up, like, oh, are you dealing with this, this, and this? And they're like, wow, that's really weird. How did you know that? I'm like, well, that's kind of the point here. And then so it does go into all of these levels. It's just a different way, right? It's they're kind of more entwined, I guess, for when the way that I do it and experience it and see it and understand it, I suppose. But yours sounds like more like technical, like almost like, you bring this to the the Western society people, and they'd be like, well, yeah, there's something to this. Whereas me, they're like, we don't know what to do with you. You're just weird.
Well, both what I do, the true quantum healing and the self-sabotage coaching, it's it's like learning how our world really works. That's the way I look at it. You know, a lot of us were maneuvering, we're walking through this world blind. That's how I describe it.
That's how
You know,
I feel.
all we can see
Yeah.
is what's in the visible light spectrum. We can see
Yes.
what's 0.00 something percent of what's around us.
0.35, 0.0035 or something like that.
Yeah. So there is a whole lot of world out there, and the world doesn't work the way we think it works.
Yeah,
you know,
there's a lot more than what you see. And like,
yeah.
you know, we can get into conversations about all the things
I was just
we
going to
don't
ask,
see.
Yeah, what's, you know,
I love that stuff.
Your
I'm here for
viewers,
it.
you know, how much is too much, or, you know, should I take it easy?
I mean, I think, you know what?
Or let's just go for it.
Because this is so this is so new. And, you know, the last lesson I just came through, life lesson, was like, where are you being not true to yourself? Where are you being inauthentic? And where are you holding back? So let's just not hold back, and let's just like go into it, because, you know, I had very little experiences with, I guess, extra dimensionals, if you will, until maybe like a couple of years ago. Now, that's just what I thought. Now I realize that I've actually been dealing with them since I was a kid, but I thought they were ghosts. And I'm like, but ghosts, like, now that I can see the difference and I have the discernment to see the difference, like I can see like that ghosts don't typically whip things across the room. They just don't do that. Like, I just don't think that they have the, like, the energy to do that. They don't siphon energy like some of the extra dimensionals do. Right. So, but whereas like a ghost feels like they're more of an imprint or an impression. But a lot of times you think you're dealing with a ghost, like you're dealing with, you know, long lost great grandma on your fourth, you know, on your mom's side or whatever, but it's actually like an extra dimensional in disguise, and it looks like your great grandmother or whatever, right? And so they dupe you sometimes to try and like, I think they try to attack your energy centers, especially like the emotions, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's what they live off of. You know, it can't be a ghost. You know, may not even be a family member. It could be just, you know, a house or an apartment you moved into, and you know, there are, you know, disincarnates there, and part of it could be, you know, they know someone's going to come in contact with me, and they're like, okay, Nick will come across this, and you know, she'll move them on to where they're supposed to be. But then there's the, you know, what we call negative energies or entity attachments. There's many different, let's say, names to them, because, you know, universal laws, we have to identify them to move them out.
Yes.
So if you're not moving out the right energy, then it's not going to leave, you know.
That's true.
Yeah. So that's what I do with my pendulum. I identify where it is in the house or where it is within the person, and then move it out. So there can be like many different, there can be, you know, can be reptilian, can be some of the Egyptian gods, Horus, can be Zeus. So all crazy. These different, I mean, there's many civilizations before, and you know, this is part of why we're walking through this world blindly, are, you know, who we are and where we came from, and our true history is hidden from us. So all these different civilizations, you know, the energy is still there. Energy doesn't die, right? We only see, as you said, 0.0035 or whatever of the visible light spectrum. So, you know, there's a whole lot of world out there, and they can see us, but we can't see them. They can come to our world, but we don't see them in their world. So that's the easiest way.
We're at a disadvantage. Basically.
It's so I think it's important to learn about this. And I know, you know, some people recoil and, you know, they can't handle it, but I think, you know, the way the world is right now and the state it's in, I think people just need to learn the truth and be open-minded. And, you know, the first time I heard about negative energies, I heard about them existing, you know, David Icke and all that part. But then when I came across Chris's work, and he described the way they can affect energetically people's bodies, and I was like, oh, wow, that makes sense. You know, it's like, I knew that information, but I wasn't aware of it in this lifetime. But oh, wow. Yeah, I remember. So there's many different negative energies, and they do feed off the human beings, and they do feed off us. It's called loosh. It's a food source for them. They love it. They're salivating right now with people locked in their homes, and, you know, everything that's going on in the world, and the pressure and the stress, and, you know, suicide has gone up. obesity has gone up. Not that it wasn't, high before, but
Mhm.
all these different health problems are going up as well, and people are anxious and stressed out and depressed. So yeah,
Yeah.
they're having a field day right now. So I think
Well,
it's
and
important for people
yeah,
to be aware of that, and that they exist, and that there are people that can help them. And even,
exactly.
yeah, and I have some clients who are like, yeah, okay, they don't need to know the particulars of what happened, they're in a session, they'll hear it, but it's not like they really focus on it and think about it. They just want the energy gone, and then completely
People
different.
are ready for what they're ready for is kind of
That's
my
it.
feeling. And it's
Yeah,
like, sometimes I'll have people come to me, but then they back out and they're like, I don't know about that. And I
yeah,
see exactly when I'm looking at the energetics, because I've had to learn okay, Christine, it's not you. Don't take it personally. They don't hate
yeah,
you.
yeah,
Right. And so I had to work through that shadow. And now I
yeah,
can kind of see clearly, oh no, this is just totally their stuff. And their stuff is coming up and their fears are coming up because,
hmm,
that part of you who your conscious brain says, yes, I want to lose weight and I want to exercise and I want to eat healthy and all of this stuff. And then your subconscious is like, yeah, no, we're not doing that.
yeah,
The
yeah,
subconscious is like a little kid almost, I feel. And and it's got some sort of habits and patterns and stuff. And it's like we go in and we look at it and we're like, okay, so you're clearly not on board with conscious mind over here. So
yeah,
what can we do to get you guys on the same page? And that's always how I feel about it. And some people are just not ready to even entertain the idea of that. And you got to kind of let them have their journey and move on and go help people who are ready. And then maybe one day that person comes back, maybe not, maybe they work with somebody else. But either way, it's like you have that intention of they're going to be at their most optimal health. But you see it, but they don't necessarily see themselves there yet. You just seeing them in the future, I think. Or at least
yeah,
that's what I feel anyways.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
so
and yeah, there's some people that are ready for it now, and to each their own. I mean, we're all on our own journey here, right? We make our own decisions. Well, at least we all think we're making our own decisions, but you were just talking about the subconscious mind, and it does control 90 to 95% of our behavior.
yep.
So a lot of people think, okay, I made this decision, I consciously made this decision, and my life is going in a direction that I planned, but that's not really the case. Yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
programming everywhere around us, through TV, through all the social media, through our school system, through the government, through our healthcare, everything. There's programming everywhere in every facet. And the subconscious mind does copy and mimic what it sees.
Yep.
So if that person, is looking at let me see what TV shows are out there. I'm trying to think of some of the bad ones. My Name is Earl, or some of
Mm-hmm.
those real bad TV shows where there's just drinking and eating fast food and smoking. Then the subconscious thinks, okay, that's part of the tribe. You know that's I want to fit in. So that's what
Yep.
the subconscious does. It's all about fitting in, being part of the tribe. And if somebody tries to veer from that, it'll even see, friends and family like, oh, why aren't you drinking? What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Why aren't you having a drink? Or, oh, you've lost a little
Social
bit of weight.
shaming.
Yeah, you've lost a little bit of weight, because the subconscious mind likes to fit in. So if someone's changing, then the other person feels threatened because the other,
Yeah.
you're rising above, and friends and family, want you to stay down with them. It's herd mentality, not that they're doing it from a bad area, but it's just a programming. And we
Yes.
live in a tribe society, and they don't want people to leave. They don't want them to progress and go further in life. They don't want to be left behind, So
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
I think that's the most terrifying thing for most people is to be alone. And I find that to be true, that one of those core embedded beliefs, fear of being alone, fear of abandonment. And I
yeah,
think that, for me anyways, that tracked from many lifetimes prior to this one where that actually did happen. And so, it's for me anyways, it was like working through those things
yeah,
and coming to terms with really what happened, because you're only really looking from your own perspective, not the rest, not the other perspectives that are all available, right? And that's how I kind of like to look at things. It's like, well, that's this perspective, and that's what you're seeing here. But like, have you considered looking at it from this perspective and this perspective and this perspective and this perspective? And then suddenly you're like, wow, that's a totally different story all of a sudden I've got here.
Yeah.
You know? And so I feel like, yeah, you're right. Absolutely. Like, we're looking at the social conditioning, and we're looking at the social shaming as a result of you're not following the herd. You're not doing, you don't have the job that I have, and I'm, better than you because I have this job, and it's normal. It's a normal job, and you have a weird job,
Yeah.
and then kind of like you're trying to fit in with them. So that tends to be like a childhood thing. I tend to notice is like the black sheep of the family kind of thing. Doesn't feel like they're really fitting in with the tribe. But then there's also the kind of like, well, if kind of like your MO, to try and fit in with the tribe, you could end up in some pretty sketchy places as well if you keep trying really hard to just fit in with a tribe, because I think that's maybe how people get into cults and stuff like that. Is talking to a friend of mine about that, and that can be a little bit scary. So it's not so much like trying to fit in. It's empowering yourself, knowing like there's a bigger thing at play here, and like there's a reason that you're different. And like my feeling is that many of us were scattered around the earth to try and bring up the energies of the earth while we're going through whatever this process is, ascension, whatever word you want to use on that. And so like try and maybe wake people up, but not like try, if that makes sense. I feel like trying to convert somebody to your belief is not really helpful. And it's growing up as a vegan, like it's not really helpful. I've found like, nope, people just aren't receptive to that. So don't do that. Just be the change you want to see in the world, I guess.
Yeah.
And then, if people have questions about it, like let them ask, let them come kind of thing. But otherwise, I guess it takes a certain type of development or a decision, I guess, maybe, I don't know, takes something to really stand up for who you are and be yourself, despite the fact that everything around you is telling you that you need to fit in, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, when we're kids, you want to fit in, you don't want to move away. It's a safety seeking mechanism. You have a target on your back if you try and veer from the pack. That's what children do. But as we get older and become adults, I mean, it's, we have to stand on our own 2 feet, and a lot of us carry those child coping mechanisms into adulthood. And so that's a big part of a lot of the problems in our society as well, and why, we as adults, we're not doing what we love. And, that's painful as well. Who's not happy when they're not doing what they love? People going to a job they don't like, spending an hour in their car every morning, being away from their family. It's not natural as human beings to live like that. And so if we're carrying all those child-based mechanisms into our adulthood, and we're sitting in front of the TV every night, drinking coffee or eating fast food, and focusing on entertainment or entrainment, rather than focusing on our own lives and building a better life, and creating what we're supposed to do here in this lifetime. We come into this world alone and we leave alone. So what we're going to do in between those 2 points? We got one shot in this lifetime. So, and then, being our best self and doing what we're here to do is, that's all part of the ascension process, right?
It is. I think so. And I think people like to overcomplicate it. There's a lot of conversations around, well, what does it mean to be in the 5th dimension? What does it really mean? And it's like, well, we know that it's not like necessarily a physical place. We know that it's a level of consciousness. But then, for me anyways, I've just noticed that the more I kind of connect into the community of people who are like more, like a little bit more open-minded about things, who like get that there's things are not as they seem. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
Things are not as they seem in the world right now, or ever really. But, you know, especially right now, it feels very divided, I guess, right? But things are not as they seem. So it's, you know, when you're talking to people who get that, who understand that, you know, hey, you know what? It's possible there's just something going on that maybe I don't know about. Am I okay with that? Or do I have to be like really attached to this ego part of me that's like, no, I know what's going on because so and so told me. But it's, okay.
Well, the TV told them, you know, because people copy and mimic and repeat what we see on TV. How many times, you know, do we hear from friends or family, just repeating what they hear on the TV? They don't do their own research. You know, how many books do they have in their library? Do they look up alternative news sources? Do they try and find the truth, or is it just, you know, copy and repeat, mimic what they hear on the screen, which they hear over and over and over, daily and weekly and monthly and for the past year? But I think a lot of people are waking up, and I think that's why what's happening in the world today is why it's happening, because a lot of people it was going over a tipping point, and I think this is to try and keep it down. It's not natural what's going on in the world right now. Human beings are not supposed to live like that. People in power, I think, we're a whole different energetic creature, so it's good for them, but it's not good for us. And I think more and more people are waking up. Still, I think actually what's going on today is waking more people up, because they're beginning to realize, okay, this ain't right. There's something wrong here. So
I mean, even people that I thought like would still be like kind of asleep are actually waking up, because the people in my life, like, well, this group of people over here, did I used to trust them before? Well, no, not really. I don't really believe anything they say, but like suddenly I'm supposed to believe everything they say now because they have my best interests at heart. Like, and it might be true. They might actually have your best interest in heart. Who knows? Like, we're only kind of going based on hearsay. But if we
go based on history, though,
but if we go based on history, not so much. Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. But and I, my thing is like, because even I've dealt with something called false screens. So, the media, like certain media platforms, are false screens, and they, you can tap into the energy, and it feels like there might be something there, and you're maybe intellectually stimulated, but then when you dig a little deeper underneath the surface, it starts to feel like almost like a vacuum, like there's nothing there. It's an illusion, right? A mirage, like you might see out in the desert, I suppose, right? So if you can kind of use your own intuition to discern things, it's like that requires you to bypass the subconscious programming too. Like, you really have to be connected to your body, which I think is part of what we do, or what you do anyways, as a true quantum healer, is really, really reconnect people to their physical self. Like, no, it's not normal that your leg hurts all the time, or that your lower back is in pain, and that you just pop a pill and then that's not normal. But we do it all the time. Where feminine issues like endometriosis or fibrosis or PCOS, like those are not normal things to happen to a person, but they're common, so we see them as normal.
And it's just those fertility problems in both men and women are increasing. And I went through my own journey with that, and doctors would say, I remember first when I was me and my husband were planning to have children, my cycles were completely off. When you're young, you're like, oh, that's great. I don't have to do that this month. But then, I want to have a baby. And I'm like, okay, not so good now. So, the doctor wanted to put me on, I think it was the pill, and then progesterone. And I'm like, okay, well, do I need to change something about my food? Do I was asking all these questions, and she's looking at me like I had 10 heads on, And so I just left there. I threw out my prescription, and this was before True Quantum Healing. And I came across an acupuncturist, and got my cycles, on point then, and did different things. Now I help women with their menstrual cycles and with getting pregnant through True Quantum Healing. My second baby, I call her a True Quantum Healing baby. because I had, problems as well then, and that helped resolve that. So medical system, they wanted me to inject myself daily when I was pregnant and take, what's that, aspirin? Yeah, aspirin, a blood thinner, before I got pregnant, and I refused both of them. So yeah, and she's here, and I was told in my appointments, like, okay, well, basically tell me something's going to happen. And even looking back, I was like, oh my goodness, my mind was so so strong that I was like, no, I'm having my baby and I'm having it my way. So just bypassed all that part of it. So yeah, it helps with many different problems. Endometriosis is, part of it is the buildup of iron in the uterus. And then there's negative energies there. I mean, our bodies will just naturally, resolve a lot of health problems if, our food wasn't toxic, our water wasn't toxic, our air wasn't toxic, and then if those negative energies weren't there, keeping the problem in place. There can be negative energies, there can be curses, spells, black magic, all those different things.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, keeping the problem in place. So it's just pinpointing all the different layers and peeling it back, and then, removing the physical component. So because we have our intent, right? We can do anything.
Yeah.
We can, that's what we're not taught as well, how powerful we are.
For sure. And no, you're right. And the intention is the magic, is my understanding of it. It's the focus, it's the magic. It's, I know when I'm using a pendulum, it's not that the pendulum is this magical object. It's that I'm the magical being emanating this magic or energy or whatever word you want to use. And it's kind of doing what I want it to do, but not from my ego, but from that pure place where it's indifferent to what happens for the most part. I think our source self is it keeps us safe and stuff like that, but it's indifferent to how we get to wherever we need to go. It just or it takes us in the best way possible. So it's not is this relationship going to work out with my pendulum? Or, it's well, I get a no on it. And it's well, because my source self is I don't care. But my ego is but I care. I want them to like me.
Yeah. And, questions like that, you can douse on it, but I think it's something that deep down the person has to decide themselves as well.
Exactly.
Because they could get a yes and no or a maybe, or you go to a percentage chart, how good is this for me? And, it can go from 0 to, our chart is 0 to 300%. But I think, we have to make our own decisions on personal, we can get guidance, but deep down it's just we have to make our own decisions.
I agree. I started a lot of my journey with card readings, so doing oracle cards and things like that, which I don't take it as the be all end all source of infinite knowledge necessarily, because again, it's just a tool, right? And so for me, it's I'd find that people would come to me with an issue and then they would come back with the same issue a month later. And it's okay, but the way I look at the card readings is kind of a diagnosis tool. Here's the issue so that you can have an understanding of it. But then, beyond that, that's going to be up to you to resolve these things, right?
Yeah.
I can only just give you the information. You're the one that has to do the work or take on the healing journey or, move away from this thing that is toxic for you. But deep down, the cards just validate what you already know, just sort of like the pendulum does, it's oh yeah, I kind of already knew that.
Yeah.
It's you just told me something I already knew. And that's all they really do is they just pick up on your energetic state and consciousness in the moment. And that's why they're not really great for forecasters of long-term predictions, because things can change in the next instant. You make a different decision and now you're up on another timeline. It's okay, now what's this timeline about? You know? And then it branches off again, so it's the more complicated than what people think it is. It's, you know what I mean?
Yeah exactly.
Yeah. So what was kind of the biggest, you've gone through so many, but what do you think was the biggest aha of your work? What was, getting into quantum healing, getting into this stuff, what solidified into place when you decided to take this on as a healer, maybe through a client or through your own personal life? That just kind of like, oh, now I understand the meaning of life, or at least a meaning of life.
Do you mean like what led up to me getting involved in all this, or?
More like just like, I guess I'm just trying to think of like a way to express, why would somebody want to get into it, and what was like kind of the biggest shift that you noticed with doing this work, or with implementing this work into your life? Like, what was a big shift for you?
A whole new world opened up. I mean, even just the possibilities and the amount I've learned with true quantum healing, how I've helped myself, my family, clients. It's just amazing what can be done with it. Just different health problems. A lot of people suffer with anxiety, anger issues, mental health problems, even suicide and depression can be dealt with true quantum healing. That brings in the negative attachments again. Of course, we have to eat healthy and, look after our bodies and eat a clean diet, and everything vibrates at a higher level when we do that. But when our bodies are vibrating at a lower level, then that just is like an opening for negative energies to come in. And so true quantum healing has, been great with helping clients with that. Different, I don't know if you're familiar with Moloch Energies, like Moloch.
I've heard of it.
Yeah. So he'd be let's say the demon of sacrifice. So he wants people's souls. So, and then someone commits suicide, well, they're not going to where they're supposed to be going. So they're going, their life will be going to that dark energy. So, I've dealt with people that have passed on that way, and then reconnected them to source, and help people who've been suicidal and different mental health problems. So when you see something like that can be done with this work, it's like, oh my goodness, people suffering with depression and anxiety and just functioning daily, and then to have 1 or 2 sessions and we pull back all the layers, and then it's just such a big difference. So it's just seeing the difference in clients and how their lives can improve and their families' lives can improve, and knowing that the world that we're living in is not what we're taught it is and what people think it is, and there is a whole new world out there. And I think there is a paradigm shift happening. It's like a different war going on right now. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that.
Yeah. So
curious about those who leave the earth plane in a violent kind of way, where they intentionally maybe leave the earth plane. Do you think that it's possible to like pull their soul out of like where that like Moloch's grasps, I suppose, and then bring it back to where it's supposed to go?
Yeah, and when you say intentionally, there's other factors involved as well on the energetic side, the different negative energies who will make a person have that thought. There's MK Ultra, there's reptilians, there's Dracos, there's all these negative energies that would make a person feel like that. And then Moloch is the one waiting. So, and yeah, it's completely possible. I've done it before for different people, and I can feel that the negative energies are not happy, but too bad. I've sent the person to source. Yeah. No, I have no compassion or whatever, or when it comes to them, it's you have to kind of square up and just get rid of them.
No, I completely agree with that. I had just sort of like, I think you had said something about like send their butts back to Saturn or something like that.
Yeah, that's where we send them. Yeah, anyone that follows David Icke's work will know that Saturn is a reptilian planet, and that's where we send them now. We used to send them to Ether, and then source take care of them, but now it's okay, send them back to where they came from, and you stay there, and I'll leave you alone.
Yeah, I mean, I've done I did a whole bunch of grid work last summer, and a friend and I did this. We opened up like a gateway to send the Dracos back, a whole bunch of them. Okay. One was attached to me, and I was having like neck and back problems, and apparently he was kind of he was kind of a big deal because he would, like, when he left, he brought a whole bunch with him and went out through this one-way portal that we kind of put out there. And it was so wild. it's like you don't really see these things physically, but like when you've got that third eye open and you can see it, it's like, oh, like that's what's going on, or that's why my back's been hurting. But like this is a bigger thing than just like one thing attached to me. Like there's whole bunches of them, and they congregate together, and they're really like, you know what I mean? Like they're kind of like people in the same sense that, if you mess with somebody's family member, the rest of them are going to come after you. They're going to be like, I ain't happy about this. Like, we're not having this. And so they kind of come in and they're like, okay, what did you do? You sent Jeff back to Saturn, like, or whatever name they have. And then, it's like, then you've got a whole bunch of them. You got to kind of like get them all, the rest of them through, or maybe other light workers do that as well. Like, I have never really talked to anybody about that.
There can be different layers, and they're multidimensional. It can be in different areas of the body. They can be in, even a physical area of the body, like someone's liver or kidneys, and then that's not going to function, at its optimal level. That area of the body can also be connected to a lower dimension then as well. So that's where all those negative energies hang out. So again, that organ or energetic area of the body is not going to function as it should. And then there can be different layers of negative energies as well. So it's just a matter of removing them all. And then, of course, it could be witchcraft spell, or it could be black magic or some kind of curse. So, there's many, many different layers to I have a whole chart system here, and it's just full of it, all the different stressors, and physical and energetic stressors. So, many different layers to it. And then there's connections to Saturn. So a person's body could be connected to Saturn, or their body could be energetically disconnected from their body. So we go into many different layers, and it's pretty amazing what we can do. Yeah.
And it's so interesting, because this really opens up a whole new world. Like it's not just that I'm like clearing your energy, it's that like there's these energies and they're from all these different places. So suddenly you're just somebody who's got like a back issue, and then next thing you know, you're like, so you've got energies that are reptilian or Draco or whatever, and like there's a whole story behind them, and then there's a whole story as to like why they're connecting to you specifically, but also connecting to the human race. So like that's it's just like kind of like it starts with one little seed, like one little thing, and then suddenly, if you're open to it and you're willing to look at things in a different way than maybe you did before, right? It expands, and then suddenly you're in a completely different reality. Like you said, quantum healing has taken you into a whole new world, and I would imagine that maybe for people who had never gotten anything like this done, or never worked with a quantum healer, and they just worked with their MD, which, we love MDs. MDs are amazing because they do what they do best, right? When whatever they're doing the best they can with what they know, and that's perfect. And like, we need those people. And then we need quantum healers, and then we need other types of healers to kind of fill in the gap, because there is a gap, right? So, but then it opens up this whole new world. Like I know when, I was doing my health journey, it was like, okay, so like, take more painkillers. Like, well, that's why do I have the problem? Well, we can't tell you that, we don't know. So, and then, you go on this whole journey with whatever thing you're dealing with, and so it becomes this whole thing, and you evolve as a soul as a result. But you also come back into that, that hidden lost knowledge starts to come out through the DNA activations as you kind of go through this stuff, which may intentionally be done or unintentionally be done. Like that's my feeling anyways, is those DNA activations can lead to like the hidden lost knowledge, or the lost memories, I guess is another way to term it, of our past history that has been hidden, in Atlantis, Lemuria, all of that stuff. And suddenly you're like, oh my gosh, like, where's all this information coming from? Because it's not like somebody's telling you this information. It's not like the media is telling you this information. You're like remembering it, or you're seeing it, or you're hearing it, or you're sensing it. And it's all started from you just like being fed up with like your back problem, or your your jaw problem or your headaches or your, fertility issues or whatever, and being like, you know what, I've had enough of this, and I'm not going to let this control my whole life anymore. So I'm going to figure out what this is, why it's here, and what I can do to actually release it from me forever and not have to deal with it forever and ever and ever. And I think, we go into it with that mentality, but then when we come out the other side, we're like, oh my gosh, thank goodness I had that problem, because I wouldn't have come across all this knowledge or had this experience if I hadn't had that problem, maybe.
Oh yeah, that's even part of my journey. Oh my goodness, different problems I had, and got on the eating healthy and organic train. Early I was in my 20s, and then when I was trying to become pregnant, and had recurrent miscarriages, and then that just opened up a whole other area, because I was looking for the reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it sent me on a whole spiritual, called spiritual journey, and so I think that's what really catapulted me into this, looking for reasons why, and the medical, you mentioned doctors, and, best intent, and, they're going into it, care and profession, but I think it's, it's more the system. The system is corrupt.
Yeah.
The people have the
exactly.
best intentions, but then they're stuck in the system as well. The powers that be, they write their textbooks, right? Everything is gone through them. Yeah. So
and I think that's important to remember, is like not to like isolate specific people or even specific groups of people. And we're looking at like, no, this is a systemic thing. And if we look at it like it's a systemic thing, then we can change it, because like now it's like, okay, well, who makes up a system? People, right?
Yeah, I think it's all by design as well.
For sure. There's some negative stuff going on there, for sure. I'm not ignorant to that. I mean, how do we empower people knowing that they're in this, they're part of this system, and they didn't know they were part of this system, and now they're waking up to it. I find a lot of people get trapped in that, like that fourth dimensional trapping system of like, they know all this stuff now, and like, well, now what do? I can't do anything about it. I'm frustrated. And then it spirals them downward sometimes, if they feel disempowered and unable to change anything or do anything about the problem,
Yeah, I think one of the most important things is to get healthy, clean body, clean mind, and then we can make better decisions. I mean, I think we have to remember who we are, where we came from, and, if we're polluted with toxic food and, toxic environment and, toxic TV, then, that's not going to help propel us forward. So I think it's, important to drink clean water. And by clean water, I mean, get a filter, or, buy spring water. That's very important. I mean, I think a lot of people don't even know what's in our water. The town water, the city water. Yeah, they'd be pretty grossed out, I think, if they actually listen to some experts on that area. Clean food, non-GMO food, non-toxic food. A lot of people will look and see how much. I hear so many people saying, "Oh, how much fat is in a certain product?" But look at the ingredients. It's like 20 ingredients in this. If you're going to put something with 20 ingredients in your body as opposed to 1 or 2, I mean, your body, physical and energetic level, it can handle it a lot better. It's going to be cleaner. So clean water, clean food, sleep. It's free. Sleep is one of the best things we can do. Get to bed by 10, sleep by 10:30, and our body goes through a whole physical recovery, between 10:30 and 2:30. I think that's very important. Children and adults, and then moving, of course, getting up off the couch, getting out and moving, fresh air. Exercise is very important, and the right type of exercise as well. Exercise, duality, it can be good and can be bad. Sometimes people, they'll punish their bodies with exercise. So I think it's important to have a good balance with exercise as well.
I hear that.
Cover those different areas, and then I think if our bodies are clean and our minds are clean, then we can make better decisions. We can remember who we are, where we came from, and even with the self-sabotage coaching, I mean, it's a whole journey, because even just the questionnaire is a healing process, going through, pinpointing all the different problem areas and helping people figure it out. they don't know why they act certain ways or why they do what they do, and they keep repeating the same behavior over and over. So that's part of the whole self-sabotage coaching process as well. And then just giving people the solutions on how to handle different scenarios in their life, and replace what they're doing negatively with something more positive. And then, drawn to true quantum healing as well. So it helps remove, the emotional layers and subconscious programming layers as well. And just both of them, work very well together, getting great results. So
that's amazing. And I think you're doing such a, it sounds like you were called to it. And it sounds like you're really intimate, I guess. That's why I like to express it, with your true calling, your true path, and what you're really here to do. And it may not be a physical thing. Some of us come to this earth and we're just here to be like light, and just to be. We're not like called to a specific occupation necessarily. But I think that can expand, as we kind of embrace the way of being, that no, I'm here to honor myself, I'm here to honor others, I'm here to honor the earth. And then if, say, we come from that place, things will just kind of grow outward. It's not so much of I need to figure out what I'm here for, and then I'll be happy and I'll be okay with everything that's happening in my life. Because that's easy to get stuck in that too, where you're like consistently looking outside of yourself for all the answers when it's all there, it's all within. But that's the hard part to look at for a lot of us with, the shadow, it's like, well, I see the light here, but guess what? There's a shadow right behind it. There's something here to look at.
I think there's just so many distractions out there for people as well. And it's like just this whole mess and this, I don't know if I can swear on this, but this whole cluster mess. This whole cluster mess of energy and problems, and people don't know how to maneuver through it. They don't know. They don't know. People feel lost, and they don't know how to change or what to change. So I love doing this work. I mean, I'm happiest when I'm with my family, and then when I'm in here doing this and I have all my tools, and here's some of the sacred geometry tools. I showed you the silver, and not silver like pyramid, the triple pyramid.
So beautiful.
And then this is sun ring. So I don't know if you've seen the sun ring.
Actually,
so you can probably feel the energies off it.
They're
this
really
is neutralization
intense.
ring, and then this is the sun ring.
That one's like more expansive, the one that pushes outwards, eh?
So the neutralization ring, this is the practitioner size. There is a smaller size as well. I have it in my cupboard there, but this is practitioner size. So what this does is it pulls negative energies off our bodies.
I was gonna say it's more like kind of this.
You see the way the spikes go in, and
like a black crystal, for example, like how black crystals absorb things out, and then quartzite is an expander kind of. So usually at the end of a session, not usually, always at the end of a session, I'll attend this between the client's feet. So all the work I do is over phone or Skype. Just intend to place it, I'll put it underneath the phone or the computer, and I intend to place it between their feet. And, they have to stand up for it, and then it'll help clear all the residual energy at the end of a session off the client. So if you want, if people want to hear it, I can intend it. Do you want to try it? Do you want to stand up? Yeah,
do you want to stand up? Okay, all right. Okay. Might as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm just gonna like this. Okay, it should still work here.
Yeah, you can tell me, because you can put it into words and pictures for people of what you see.
Let's move my chair. Okay. We're not hiding anything today. Everything is out in the
might as well let people see what it feels like. So I'm intending the 9-inch gold neutralization ring between everybody listening, between their feet, between Christine's feet. Pull off all residue and vestiges and send to Saturn. So we leave it here for a minute or two.
Okay.
A lot of people can feel a rocking back and forth, or something, shooting at their back. Some people feel a pulling into the ground. So it's different for everybody.
I feel like an expansion in like the root chakra, almost like it's pulling down, anchoring.
Different grids. Layers of grids. Ooh.
Wow, that's intense, eh?
So anybody that's doing this, just stand up, have your feet shoulder width apart, and I'm just intending a 9-inch gold neutralization ring between your feet, and just going to pull off any negative energies, and we're going to send them to Saturn. Got to send them somewhere. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
I used to send them to Source as well, but then when I heard about, oh wait, I can send them to Saturn, that's nice. They want to go home anyways. I think on a deep subconscious level, everybody wants to go back home. Like
I
that
know,
whole,
yeah.
there's no place like home.
Leave us alone on our planet, and we leave you alone on yours, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I know, yeah. It's funny because I grew up watching sci-fi.
Yeah,
But my
too.
brothers, I have a big
Star Trek.
family. I have 5 brothers, 5 sisters, and most of my brothers, a couple of them are older than me, and they were into watching Star Trek. So grew up, seeing all these different names on different beings. So it's kind of funny now that I see some of them in my chart, even Stargate Atlantis, and different sci-fi shows. Yeah. So the rate are in my charts. So
What's in your chart, sir?
the rate, in Stargate Atlantis. Yeah. So it's kind of interesting. People can sit down and watch these shows for entertainment and be like, oh wow, that was amazing. Or what's the big movie? It's called, what's
the Marvel
Luke
films?
Vader. Yeah, Luke Vader, or
the
Darth Vader.
Yeah, the Star Wars.
Star Wars, yeah. So people sit down and watch that for entertainment, but universal law have to kind of let us know in a certain way of what's going on in the world, right? And if we comply, then fair game. So people will.
But they do it in a way to make you laugh,
That's it. To sell it as entertainment.
Yeah.
So they'll sell it as entertainment, but there's truth in everything, right? It's kind of like growing up in Ireland with our history. We're told certain stories. Oh, it's legends, it's fairy tales, it's folklore, but it's all real. A lot of it's real.
Yeah, it's well, there are other dimensions, right? I know about the my friend tells me about the Avalon stuff a lot, but how that's another kind of dimensional plane, if you will. And there's probably more to it than I'm aware of, but I thought that was quite fascinating, really, because as somebody who grew up reading a lot of, I read Harry Potter growing up, and I read a lot of that kind of stuff, mostly about like witches and wizards and magicians and stuff like that. That was my draw. And I always thought like, well, so there's this phenomena happening right now that I just became aware of, that I think it's like a teen and 20 something thing where they're really into something called shifting, but it's basically quantum jumping or timeline jumping.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it was like, wow, like, these 20 somethings, 23, 24-year-olds are really, really into this. And I was like trying to wrap my head around it, but they're like doing like, oh, I'm going to like Harry Potter world, or I'm going to, some other fictional book world or something like that. And they shift into it. And it's like a full on thing. But I was like, well, isn't that the same as manifestation? Because manifestation, you're not bringing something into the world that didn't exist already. And you're not even bringing anything to you. You're just moving yourself essentially. And you're moving your own sort of self into another world from one perspective. Right. So, and it's like a consciousness travel, right? Not necessarily, I mean, I guess it could be physical too, but I always thought that was I thought that was fascinating. I didn't realize that was such a popular thing for like, and I think it might be related to the fact that a lot of people are having a hard time, coping with the reality as it is being presented to us. My sister jokes and says it's the timeline God abandoned.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's kind of dark. But we have dark humor, but but yeah, so I just, it's just really interesting how, like you were saying about, Star Wars and different things like that, they're telling us truths. But
Yeah.
because we have such a limited perspective of like that light perception, right?
Yeah.
Or, you know, that all could be really happening around us and we wouldn't know it. We would have no idea.
Oh yeah, it's all packaged under the label conspiracy theorist. So
Yeah.
yeah. What are you feeling now with the neutralization ring?
Ooh, clearer. Like my head is less foggy and
Yeah.
I'm a little bit less, I don't know, like I not stressed. That's the wrong word. But you know, when you get a little bit flustered.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely
Yeah.
feeling less that. I'm like more
Yeah.
clear.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty powerful tool. So I'll take the
Yeah.
neutralization ring out and you can take a seat, Christine. Yeah, you can take a seat. Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
So yeah,
That's
I've other
amazing.
tools as well. Sun ring, I mean, you can use it with intent, just intend, you know, people use it with crystals. They use it to structure their water, intend whatever they want. Can hang it up in their room on the wall. And then divinity ring as well. I use this sometimes, you know, I'll be guided on which tool to do. So this balances the four forces. So earth, air, wind, and water. And there's other forces as well that balances also. Yeah. So
Wow.
it's pretty amazing. Yeah. Working with all these different tools and energy. It's exciting.
That's amazing. I mean, and it's so cool that you actually have physical tools, you know, to do these things with, to direct the energy, you know, and I've been more sort of etheric or astral kind of place where I'm doing more stuff in the astral, right? And I was thinking about that last night, actually. Somebody was doing some like ritual magic spell type thing. And I was like, that's cool, but you know what? I just can't be bothered. I love that this person does that and they're super crafty, but I'm not super crafty. You know, I'm like, you know, I'm a seer. I go and, you know, I scry into the, you know, using the mirrors of the water or the crystals or whatever you have you, right? And that's where I do a lot of my stuff. And then I do more intentional type stuff. So, okay. So, why don't, like, is there anything else that you want to like say before we go? Maybe we just wrap this up a little bit.
Yeah, if anybody wants to learn more about true quantum healing or self-sabotage coaching, they can reach me at nicolakb.com. I'm also on Facebook. I'm on YouTube, same name, Nicola KB. I have a long last name, so I figured, you know, shorten it, be easier to remember for people. So yeah, and feel free to email me. All my contact information is on my website.
And I'll put it in the description in the video as well. So just send me a little message or send me your website. I'll just put that in there.
Yeah,
and then,
I will do.
Yeah. And then if you guys want to connect with me or you want to be interviewed by me or anything like that, just send me. I'll put my contact details in the description as well below. But this is very new, so bear with me. Be nice. Let's be kind to each other. You know, if you have something constructive to say nicely. But I'm so grateful that you guys spent your time here. I'm so grateful that Nicola, you were able to come and join me, and we were able to figure this out. Despite, you know, the starting point was a little bit crazy, but it was great. I'm so glad we got to do this today and that we persisted.
Oh yeah, and thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, thank you, you too, and thanks for having me as well.
Oh, thank you. You're welcome.
All right, I'll talk to you soon. Okay.
Talk to you soon, Christine.
Have a good day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.